Hi, this is Lisa Tomei Zonneveld from PoetryPause Press. So wonderful to welcome you all here today for the book launch for Lindsay Soberano-Wilson's book, Hoods of Motherhood. So happy to have you here. Let's go ahead and get started with the video. Be just 1 second while I get that set up.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much, and welcome to the book launch for Lindsay. And would like to ask that people that are present, if you could please write in the chat your comments, your celebrations, anything that you'd like to share with Lindsay, and I will save that chat for her to have for her safekeeping for memories of this day. So thank you all so much for coming today. We have Zanetta Renato-Johns today is our pre-show guest. She's opening for Lindsay, and we'll be reading some of Lindsay's poetry as well as her own. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. Zanetta Renato-Johns is a Pushcart Prize nominee and a four-time best-selling author of Poetic Forecasts and After the Rainbow. She's a contributing author in the Women's Speakers Association #1 International Bestsellers, Voices of the 21st Century for 2021, 22, and 23. She co-edited Social Justice Inc.'s anthology that was with PoetryPause Press, and she serves as an editor with the Fine Lines Literary Journal and administrator for the Passion of Poetry, an online platform for emerging and esteemed poets. She contributes to various anthologies and international literary publications. Sam, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa, for that great introduction. Thank you, Lindsay, for inviting me to share in this celebration with you. Huge congratulations to you. I'm humbled and honored to be here. I think that Lindsay's book is amazing. I was telling her earlier how I love the intriguing title, Hoods of Motherhood. How blessed Lindsay's students must be to have her as a teacher. Can you imagine that? Lindsay being your teacher, this prolific, wonderful writer. You know the saying, you had me at hello? Lindsay, you had me at an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, found in your poem, Put It to Rest. Hoods of Motherhood is powerful and relatable, poems that are powerfully relatable. Lindsay is a descendant of a Holocaust survivor. Her story is our story. If you have a heart, you will love Lindsay's book. You will relate to Lindsay's book. Her history is my history, our history. She is a mother who has suffered pain through losses and joy through triumphs. It's all revealed in this beautiful book. One of her reviewers, Amy Brown Gamblin, I think I'm saying the name correctly, said that this book would be familiar to anyone who has been a mother or had a mother. In other words, everyone can relate to this book. I say yes to that. Lindsay talks about reconciling outdated notions and learning to give back to ourselves before we give to others. I relate to this. It resonated with me as a mother myself. I remember telling my children that when I'm happy, I can make sure that you're happy. So Lindsay, I say yes. If we take care of ourselves, we can contribute to the happiness of others. Thank you for sharing your light with the world through this beautiful book and focusing on the empowerment of women and allowing me the privilege to celebrate again. I want to start by sharing a couple poems of my own. Lindsay chose one, and the second one is one that I chose to share. The first one is about empowerment. This is a poem, Not Her Fault, that was shared in 2021 as part of Domestic Violence Awareness and Empowerment. It was recited as a video during the Day of Awareness. I present to you Not Her Fault. She left for the party, looking like $1,000,000. She returned home like a discarded penny. Her appearance was a muck. Her elation swelled when they first drove away. She had lustful hopes after a long, stressful day. They laughed, they danced, they ate and drank. When a handsome man winked at her, to him and his ego, it felt like a prank. Her once cheerful companion did a 180 turn. His demeanor was all anger, a fiery rage that could burn. He grabbed his beautiful queen and reduced her to fear. Like a rag doll, she went limp as her eyes filled with tears. He said things to her not worthy of repeat. His words were as harsh as a drumline's rapid beat. Her lovely dress was torn. Her arm needed a sling. Every time she wiped her eyes, the fresh abrasions would sting. She wondered what she'd done to cause such a scene. She assumed it was her fault, though, like grass in summer, his envy was green. She softly said, "I'm sorry," holding on to her purse. He furiously snatched her by the arm, making the painful strain worse. Her strand of pearls was now broken, but not as much as her heart. She'd ignored all the signs that he revealed from the start. They drove home in silence. He never spoke a word. She thought about their last dance and the awful things she'd heard. She slowly stumbled inside, ran a bath, and got some ice. He brewed a cup of tea to sweetly serve her, pretending to be nice. She sat in utter silence. Her lips could not move. There was nothing he could do, and her deep pains, he could not soothe. She knew it was time to leave her toxic man. She fervently prayed throughout the night. She awakened determined and said, "I can." That was not her fault. The next poem that I will share is one that was written for my mother, who passed away suddenly, unexpectedly in the year 2000. This is another aspect of motherhood. It comes with grief, it comes with celebration, joy, pain, every emotion under the rainbow. This one is titled Missing You. When you first passed away, I wondered in what form you'd reappear. It really didn't matter the form, I just longed to have you near. I first thought about the rainbow and the spectrum of its color, but your many shades of love could outshine it like none other. The pretty petals of the rose were the next to enter my mind. Their sweet smell and the softness could mask your likeness anytime. I considered a lovely butterfly as it flew above your vault. Like you, it had freedom in flight and its spirit couldn't be caught. I listened to various music for reminders of your voice. Though lovely, none could suit me. Your sound is my one of choice. I looked for you in others who projected your demeanor. I couldn't find satisfaction because your presence is so much sweeter. So I've come to the conclusion that I'd rather have you in my heart, and I'll see you later in heaven when from this earth I depart. For my mother. So let's turn to Lindsay's beautiful expressions. The first poem that I'll share is titled Wings of Burden, from this amazing book that Lindsay is sharing with the world. I'm done foraging in the woods for bones, scraps, and maps, taking leftovers, accepting tainted offerings, holding white flags. I'm done foraging in the woods for hearts, hands, and sap, taking hand-me-downs, accepting unripe and spoiled gifts, holding on to recurrent dreams. Instead, I'm perched on a tree, grounded, faithful, truthful, humble, wise, graceful, imperfectly perfect. I am no longer accepting that I need to hold your broken wings to fix mine. Those are yours to hold. Love that poem. The next poem that I'm going to share really resonated with me. I felt like I was in the room with you, Lindsay, when you wrote this poem. It's titled Voice Box. I tore, ripped, crumpled, and then flattened out every page that was ever written about me, or I ever ghost wrote about myself, and stacked them all up, way up, and then lined them all up, and finally guided them down, way down, into the sharp claws and jaws of the shredder. Marveling at the voice box submerged in piles of paper strips, I managed to compile of unreleased compilations. Whew, I can feel that poem. Lindsay, all I can say to you is thank you. I look forward to reading more of your amazing writing. Please continue to share your voice with the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zan. That's beautiful, beautiful. I love to hear you recite poetry. So wonderful at it, so articulate. Much better than I am with it. So I see some more people have come in. So welcome. The rest of you have come in since we got started. I do want to invite people to write in the chat any congratulatory or comments or anything like that you want to offer. And I'll save that for Lindsay to read afterward. I was wanting to open up a little bit to see if anyone has any particular questions or comments that they'd like to make before we start with Lindsay's recitations. And just feel free to open your mic and speak. You don't have to wait to be called on.
May I jump in?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll jump in because I have a burning question for Lindsay. There's so many poems. I love them all, but the poem that's titled "A Case of the Napping Blues." I love the blues, and I have to ask you, when was this written? What was the melody that you heard as you penned this poem? Is it fast? Is it slow? Please tell us more about that poem.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, this was definitely written around when my firstborn son had a big aversion to taking naps, right? And being a first-time mom, a lot of the poems that deal with more of the daily tasks of motherhood I wrote those as a first-time mom. And that one, yes, I think I definitely pictured kind of a slow melody. And I think at the time I got a kick, out of realizing that I was being a little bit kind of playful and, complaining about this, beautiful miracle before me. But of course, in that moment, I could be very frustrated by all the terrible advice on napping, right?
Thank you. Is there anyone else has questions? I know in the process of working on this manuscript, and I can relate a lot to what Lindsay wrote. I'm an adopted mom, but I've also lost, a baby, and I thought this is really going to resonate with people who have, gone through different walks of life. And I admire Lindsay. The more I get to know her, more I get to know about her. The more admirable I am of her personality and her qualities, and I could see why it's a natural thing to write about these things. So I'm grateful that you put these words into poetry and that we made this connection, because this book has just really touched my heart, which it goes deep, and I really love that about the book. What exactly would you like to see readers take away from your book?
Yes, I think, ultimately I really want readers to go away from the book with some hope, inspiration, and overall just more empathy, right? So I really want maybe mothers on their motherhood journey, fertility journey, to perhaps find, hope and comfort in some of the words. But also, of course, I really want younger women to find inspiration in the words. I think a lot of my message is about finding your voice, your identity, trying to keep your dreams in line. And then, of course, the empathy piece would just be for people to come out with more understanding of the different roles that caregivers play, and to just have some more understanding when speaking of fertility in that way as well.
Thank you. I see that Gabriella has a question in chat. It said they were wondering about the process of putting the book together, about the pain of choosing which poems to include, which poems to leave out, and what Lindsay has planned for future books.
Thank you. I think because the process was a lengthy one, I did start writing some of the poems when my firstborn was born in 2010. So a lot of the experiences with infertility and some of the, experiences with recurrent miscarriage were later in my journey, between kind of 2012 to 2014. So I suppose what I would say is by the time I was bringing it together, picking and choosing, I was a bit more removed from the pain, right? Obviously, the pain never goes away, but at that point there was new pain from new journeys in life, right? So I think having a little bit more distance and time actually really, really helped. And it allowed me to have even more empathy for other women on their journeys. I think there was a two-part question there. She was also curious about my next project, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So as of late, I really am trying to gather a better understanding of my Bobby Toby Gorenstein's Holocaust survivor story. She did do an interview with the Holocaust studies in San Francisco in the 90s. But it is in German and Yiddish. So I'm in the process now of having it translated, and I'd want to do research to tell her story. And so my next piece, my next big project is telling my grandmother's Holocaust survivor story. And this summer, I'm really excited to share that I'm going to be in Israel for the first time in many, many years, because I did earn a scholarship for Canadian teachers for Holocaust studies in Yad Vashem in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv this summer. So obviously, while I'm there immersed in learning about, new pedagogy around Holocaust studies, at the same time, I'm going to be really grateful to be at Yad Vashem and be able to do my research there immediately.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. I see Stan has asked or stated, my neighbor just gave birth to her 6th child, and I plan to give her a copy of your book, Lindsay.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, Lindsay, how about you read us some of your beautiful poetry?
Sure, I would love to do that. So as you see, Zan did read the poem about the voice box, right? So voice box kind of has two parts to it. The first was when I kind of wrote about reflecting on discovering the voice box. But then I came up with a part 2 to the poem, which is called Now My Voice Box Echoes. And I wanted to share that with you today. Now my voice box echoes. And here I was thinking, rediscovering my voice box at the bottom of the paper shredder, full of pages of shit other people said to me or about me, was enough. But that was only step 1. because I've since found that the voice box echoes what you tell it, what you yell at it, what you whisper to it, what you will it. I've since then found that the voice is growing as it echoes around me, inside of me, surrounding me, protecting me from those who tinker with it. Now, my voice box echoes back to me, and it sounds like me, instead of tricking me into letting others speak for me. Thank you. And, I think that is a major message in the book, right? I think a lot of women struggle with finding their voice, their identity. And even when we think we've found ourselves, we don't always realize that we're not being ourselves, that we're still trying to be someone who we're not. So the next poem I'm going to read also explores this theme, and it's called Down with Cool Girl. Down with cool girl. Sorry, she's not free to be whatever it is you want her to be. So move on over. She wants this seat, even when you mark it with your feet, or sit at the head and tell her to tame it. In fact, she just can't contain it and won't bat her eyelashes for a seat. No, not at all. Isn't that neat? She won't even be discreet as she sets her own table and won't cross her legs or fold her arms so you can shut down her internal alarms. No, you can't greet her with wet, sloppy kisses and open arms or slyly slide up against her as you walk on by. No, no more cool girl, just going along with everybody else's songs. Down with cool girl. Because now it's cool to walk the walk, talk the talk, and let you gawk. No, it's not cool to bend to your whims, to pay for your sins. She would rather be a bitch, or better yet, a witch. So while the book does have some more outspoken, fierce poems, obviously there are some more heartfelt poems as well. And I did want to take the time to share one of those heartfelt poems. This one is called Our Sanctuary. And I really also wanted to add that in Canada, we do have the luxury of breastfeeding being more normalized and accepted than it is in other parts of the world. But still, it really was a struggle. And this poem is a homage to all the women who breastfed or didn't, because that is best. So here we are, Our Sanctuary. I used to think the middle of the night was reserved for parting lovers, partygoers, and weary travelers. But now, when I rouse from slumber, shuffle into my gown, flick the nightlight, cuddle my baby, and borrow into the glider, I envision a collage of women nourishing our own. The ritual has become habitual. His lips curled, hands unfurled, and eyes wide open through every gulp, until his eyelids become almond slivers, and he finally exhales, or I wake halfway through a rock, only to find he has beaten me to it. So I guide him over my shoulder as he's engrossed in a stretch, rub his back and look out the window, only to see silent blackness sketching the sky. That has become our sanctuary. He then dives back into his crib where peace envelops his face, and I perform a tiptoed ritual dance, relief and accomplishment set in. I used to think the middle of the night was reserved for parting lovers, party goers, and weary travelers. But now, when I rose from my slumber, shuffle into my gown, flick the nightlight, cuddle my baby, and borrow into the glider, I envision a collage of women nourishing our own. And if we do have one more poem, I think what I want to do is, I was debating what to share, but the next poem I'm going to share is called I Am a Pandemic Zombie Mom. You know, during the pandemic, a lot of people like to talk about how we are in the same boat and everything like that. And in some respects we were, but certainly it was a different experience for everyone. And myself, as a mom of 3 young boys and a teacher, it was very, very, very trying. So this is a poem for all the mothers during the pandemic who didn't have their global village somehow made it to the other side. No, I won't just join your online group for beauty products for women who are living. I am a pandemic zombie mom. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong. A sip of lukewarm coffee is my nail salon. A warm bath that the kids jump into is my spa. A pizza night delivery is my restaurant. You get the picture, don't you? Lockdown after lockdown, school shutdown after school shutdown. Is it any wonder I get any shut-eye? I try and try and try, but then I cry and cry and cry because it's been too long just getting by. Snack after snack, grocery run after grocery run, laundry after laundry, cleanup after cleanup, play outside after we play outside, after we play outside, play inside after we play inside, after playing inside, always inside, on the outside of our lives. You get the picture, don't you? I am a pandemic zombie mom. I try to stay strong, to help the kids with all that's going on and all that goes wrong when they scream and yell about how this all is hell, if they're not telling me to go to hell. When they say they hate these stupid masks, when they cry at night and don't know why, when they name people and places they miss that I didn't even know exist. When the screen makes them mad, it makes me so sad to know I birthed zombie babies. I'm a pandemic zombie mom. Sometimes I feel as though I don't belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Loved this. Loved it. Thank you. Is there anyone that would have something that they would like to share before we get ready to close? I see Zan's hand up.
My hand keeps going up. Lindsay, trust me, you do belong. I wondered whether your students know about your book, and I hope that they will all read the poem, Keep Your Biology Out of Our Analogy. Did I say it right? Keep your anatomy.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Some of my students have definitely taken an interest, and I'm, really fortunate. Yeah, I think some of them really admire and are interested, and others, of course, like any teenager, right, are like, okay. But yes, I am looking forward to sharing the book with my students very much, and I've had a few ask me about it. Yes.
Nice. I thought I saw a hand up a moment ago, but now I don't see it anymore. So if somebody else wants to say something, just jump in.
Yes, and I really wanted to just make sure, of course, I have the opportunity just to thank everyone for being here. I know it's a beautiful day outside. I know it's a lot to take time out on your Sunday, but I really appreciate everyone being here for the love of poetry and to support me. And of course, I wanted to give a special thank you to Zane for being here and supporting me and encouraging me. And Lisa, of course, you know, there aren't enough words to express how grateful I am for you believing in me and working so closely with me. You know, we discovered the storyline behind the cover image, the front and the back together, and we worked very closely on that, and I really appreciated that. One last thing I want to say as well is that, you know, there was a few more pieces that I wanted to add in at the end, and Lisa was very flexible, and I really appreciate that as well. So thank you so much.
It's hard to resist all your beautiful words. So I was glad to add them in. Well, thank you, everybody. I do want to echo as well. Thank you all so much for coming out today and celebrating. And happy Victoria Day for Canadians. So a new day that I learned about just this morning. So always good. But thank you all so much for coming out, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.